Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Apple Store in Regent Street. Thanks for coming to the Meet the Filmmaker event. This series brings writers, directors, producers and actors to engage in discussion with you, the audience, and the latest in film and television. Today, we're excited to bring you Baz Luhrmann as he discusses his latest feature film, Australia, starring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman. Our guest moderator today is film critic for The Observer and the BBC, Jason Solomons.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jason Solomons, as the gentleman said, film critic at The Observer and presenter of the Guardian Weekly film podcast. I'm delighted that we'll be podcasting this interview on iTunes. I'm very excited. You've just seen the trailer of the new film Australia, directed by Baz Luhrmann, one of not just Australia's great artists, but one of the world's great visual artists. You've seen some of his work in films like Strictly Ballroom. You've seen his take on Shakespeare with Romeo and Juliet. You saw the fabulous musical Moulin Rouge, and you are about to see what I think is a sumptuous, beautiful, cheeky, funny epic, and you will see the man who devised it, and when you discover the man, you will understand the film all the more. So would you please welcome, I'm delighted to welcome to the Apple Regent Street, Baz Luhrmann.
Thank you, Jason.
My absolute pleasure, Baz. Welcome to Regent Street. Welcome to Apple World.
Well, what makes you think that you'll understand the film more once you've met me?
Well, because I think what we're going to find...
Sorry, I know...
your questions...
Sorry to bring it up.
is that are the way that ideas pour out of you, visual ideas. Because I think we saw the trailer there, and you can see from here, Australia, it is a mix of styles. I think if you just saw that trailer, you'd be slightly confused as to what the tone of Australia might be. So how do you pitch it?
Well, I want these visual ideas to pour out of me.
We'll get there. We've got an hour here.
Seriously, I think... actually, I'm not crazy about that trailer in this sense. I mean, I think that... And it's a big subject. The selling of film is a distinctly different, and it is an art form, but it's distinctly different from probably the creation of a film itself. And your question's an interesting one in that I think that, and I'm making no blame here actually, we've got a great team here at 20th Century Fox in England, but communicating the film is difficult. And I'll tell you why that is. Because the inspiration for this movie were those old sweeping epics where you had broad comedy, romance, action, drama, all in one cinematic experience.
What films such as Gone with the Wind?
Well, I think they're great. Yeah, Gone with the Wind's a great example. Giant, Casablanca, films that were, in a sense, a sort of banquet of cinema. And, what's interesting, Jason, is that I think a lot with cinema today, something is either a comedy, or it's a drama, or it's a romance. It's a romantic comedy for 40-year-old women, or an action film is for 17-year-old boys. And so you segregate the cinematic experience and you sell to those groups. Now, increasingly, that sell influences the choices about what gets made. So communicating something that is, slapstick comedy next to romance, action, drama, that's not easy in the current commercial vernacular that exists today.
So how do you... I mean, I don't know what the budget was. Is it rude to ask a director what his budget was?
Well, why don't you try and be rude?
Baz, how much was the budget for Australia?
I'm not going to tell you. How rude. Oh, you press people.
We're nosy.
Well, it was over 100 million.
Right.
Which, by the way, I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm not pretending it's not a lot of money. But there's a comedy out there at the moment that's way over $100 million to make. So,
No, I was expecting more because it is so epic, and you've got...
Yeah, well, we have spent our lives, and when I say we, there's my wife, Catherine Martin, who's my production designer, and my extended team, in getting a lot on screen for whatever money we have. However much money you have to make a film, you need more. Having said that, you can make any movie for any amount of money. You can make Titanic for $10. I take that marvelous video camera up there and take some sheet of paper here and scrunch it up, shoot it. That would be the iceberg. I would have to do Kate's role. Oh, Jack, you know. It would be funny, but it could be made for $10. I could do it cheaper than $10. Maybe not the movie version, but you could turn the video camera on, and I could tell the story of Titanic. It was a cold morning. James Horner's a lot more expensive than my humming, but the point is you can do anything, tell any story. If you can tell it, and that's the way to start, as it is the way it should end, you can do it with any amount of resources. Having said that, if you do go to paint on a huge sweeping canvas, no matter how much money you got, you need more. So,
well, this is what I love about the film, apart from the look of it and the style of it and the performances between Nicole and Hugh Jackman, I think are just terrific. But this character here, David Gulpilil, who's a key character in Australian cinema since the late 60s, early 70s.
Ever since Nick Roeg discovered him at the age of 19 in the tribe that he was in, the Yongle tribe, in a film called Walkabout.
Which are based on James Vance Marshall's book, tremendous film. But he is key, and he in this film is a storyteller, as is. Where's the little character? Oh, he's not here.
Don't show. Yeah, he's actually in the arms of Hugh Jackman.
Right. Yeah. Yes, there. He's a key storyteller. The film is as epic as it is. It really is about
intimate
story.
That is everything. I mean, Lawrence of Arabia. Really, just about everything is a two-hander. I mean, you might think there are 5 people in a scene, but at any given moment, it's usually between one person and the other. So in Lawrence, it's a whole lot of, the nephew cannot be crossed. Nephew cannot be crossed English, and it's like, I'm prepared to give it a go if you will. Next thing, it's music, huge image, and you understand from that the drama of crossing the nephew. So, they are intimate, actually. Epics don't really work. I mean, a favourite of mine has never been talked about is I rather like the Bunderchuk War and Peace. Has anyone seen that? You could see it this afternoon. It only goes for 12 hours, but and it took 10 years to shoot. People died, grew up and died during the making of the film. But it's a great film. It's out actually on Moss Film's new release of it. It's great. The DVD is great. But that's Tolstoy's great power. Is it's intimate, but then you amplify the internal emotions of the character by using landscape and historical events. That's the fundamental rule of what you might term the epic.
And that's what you do here. As you can see, that war as the backdrop, and then...
Why do you keep referring to this poster as it somehow captures the movie?
Because they're here. There has been visual...
I'm not a painter. Yeah, exactly how I got it here. You see, you got off David Gulpilil too early. This guy here, right, just to give you an idea of how adventurous, fulfilling, exciting, and interesting it was to make this film. He was 19 when Nick Roeg discovered him, and he did a film called Walkabout, been in many, many different Australian films. He took back off to the bush. I mean, David is a very far-out character. And I went to find a character to play King George. And you talk actually about him being a storyteller. Well, the Indigenous culture, and really the centre of the film, is very much an Aboriginal story, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the Indigenous culture is not a written culture. It's a culture that transposes wisdom and knowledge through storytelling, through music. So given that we're in the business of storytelling, it was exciting to work with such storytellers. I went to find David Gulpilil, who's really a legend, but he's a wild, wild character. And he does a film and then he disappears into the bush. So I went up to Darwin, this actually happened, to find his son, actually, to play a smaller role in the film. And I'm walking in a park in the middle of Darwin, and he jumps down and goes, man. Actually, the press conference, he said, Baz, he trucked me. He tracked me down to Darwin. I leaped out. Actually, what literally happened was he jumped out of some bushes. He went, you and me, a little birdie told me. Little birdie told me, you and me are going to make an important story for the world. Talk about this important story. And right in that moment, I don't know why he has a Chinese accent, but he right in that middle of the moment, he absolutely beguiled me. The character I was thinking of, and I hadn't written it yet, was called King George the Shaman. And he was like King George. And I mean, honestly, to this day, I do not know whether he truly is a shaman or he was just an actor, trying to get a job. But he was so incredibly convincing. What is so extraordinary about him, and he came to be kind of the shaman of the film, is that, just to give you an idea of his life, he said to me in the middle of it, Baz, that guy I work with in